This is a reading from the book, The Individual Psychology of Alfred Adler. I took some notes. I'm going to read them out and we can discuss what comes next in terms of human values and human activity and what we can expect from the future. I'm going to start with his observations on teachers. If a teacher has a low degree of social feeling, and social feeling is an Alfred Adler term. If a teacher has a low degree of social feeling, his goal of superiority in being a teacher may be to rule among his inferiors. He may feel secure only with those who are weaker and less experienced than himself. So a teacher with a high degree of social feeling will treat his pupils as his equals. And that's from the chapter Style of Life. Adler's observation about forgetful people is, he says, forgetful people are the kind who do not like to rebel openly, but who through their forgetfulness betray a certain lack of interest in their tasks. So if you've ever been forgetful, or if you know somebody who's forgetful, often there's a lack of interest in what they're doing, and so the forgetfulness is kind of a passive rebellion. Next passage. Adler observes that a lasting influence upon someone to whom one does wrong is impossible. So if you do wrong to somebody, you'll never get a lasting influence. And Adler observes that those who are relatively immune to suggestion are likely to take everything that comes from the outside as an insult, to consider only their own opinion as right, and to reject everything another person offers them. And that's from the chapter Psychology of Use. Next passage, Adler observes, a person who goes straight on shows courage, whereas an adult who is anxious and hesitant has a style of life that prohibits direct action, and something of a detour appears in every action. Next passage, Adler writes, it is difficult to decide which offers the greatest injury to human welfare, the neurotic, whose motives are so good, but whose actions, apart from these good motives, would seem spiteful, egotistic, and designed to hold up the cooperation of his fellows. Or on the other hand, the criminal, whose hostility is so much more open and who takes pains to subdue the relics of his social interest. So whose injury is greatest to human welfare, the neurotic or the criminal? Adler says it's difficult to decide. And Adler observes that something that may lead to considerable disturbances is the excessive confidence in supernatural help, as if the individual wanted to have everything given to him. Next passage. This is on discouragements. Discouragements, the surest sign of a neurotic, forces him to put a distance between himself and absolutely necessary decisions. To justify this distance, he resorts to arrangements which pile up in front of him like a mountain of junk. Thus, the neurotic separates himself from the front of life. So, my understanding of that is that by the front of life, you can think of it the front of your house where everybody can see. What happens when garbage piles up and you've got like a couple, 3 or 4 garbage bags out in the front yard and it's in the middle of the week? That's an example of a neurotic, and the junk tends to pile up. Neurosis is always behavior which can be expressed in 2 words. The words yes, but. What does yes mean? What does but mean? He sees that there is a particular problem before him and he says yes, but he does not follow it up. It is always followed by but. So he does not accomplish what is expected of him. The neurotic symptoms are much stronger than what is represented by the yes. Therefore, the neurotic always falls so short of the problems of life because he is more interested in what he has expressed by the but than in what is expressed by the yes. He understands social interest, and that makes him different from the psychotic person, but he does not go all the way. So the neurotic is emotionally invested in the word but, and so it's a yes, and then the but takes the emotional charge, and he absorbs the content behind the but. Adler writes, if he, the neurotic, is spoken to, oh no, this is not the neurotic, this is insanity, this is dementia. So if he is spoken to, he blushes. He cannot find words to reply. Every day he is in deeper and deeper despair. At last he is completely blocked towards all the problems of life, and no one can understand him any longer. He does not look at others, speak to them, or listen to them. He does not work or study. He is always engaged in fantasy. Only a shabby remainder of sex activity is left. This is insanity, dementia praecox. So Adler would see a regular sexual activity would be seen as a standard, a gold standard for mental health for Adler. So to have like an active sex life would be within a marriage would be seen as ideal for Adler. So only a shabby remainder of sex activity is left. This is insanity, dementia praecox. Insanity is the highest degree of isolation. It represents a greater distance from fellow man than any other exception except perhaps suicide. But even insanity is not incurable if the interest in others can be aroused. So this takes us back to Alfred Adler's idea of social interest and how being interested in other people is a tonic or a remedy for insanity. So even insanity is not incurable if the interest in others can be aroused. It is an art to cure such cases, and a very difficult art. We must win the patient back to cooperation, and we can only do it by patience in the kindliest and friendliest manner. And that's from page 315, Extreme Isolation. Adler, recalling his experience with a female patient, he said, "I let her hit me and looked friendly. This she did not expect, and it took away every challenge from her. She still did not know what to do with her reawakened courage. She broke my window and cut her hand on the glass. I did not reproach her, but bandaged her hand. The usual way of meeting such violence, to confine her and lock her in her room, was the wrong way. And anybody who spent time in a psychiatric unit will know that if you lose your temper and you get angry because they took your phone or they won't let you leave your room, and you pull the cord or you lash out in anger, they will put you in an isolation room. Adler says that is the wrong way to deal with a patient. We must act differently if we wish to win this girl. It is the greatest mistake to expect an insane person to act as a normal person. Almost everyone is annoyed and irritated because the insane do not respond like ordinary beings. They do not eat, they tear their clothes, and so on. Let them do it. There is no other possibility of helping them. I still see this girl from time to time, and she has remained in good health for 10 years. She earns her own living, is reconciled to her fellows, and no one who ever saw her would believe that she had ever suffered from insanity. That's page 315, or page 316 in a case. So Adler believes that allowing a patient to be violent and continuing to be friendly and kind to them is the only solution. Otherwise, you're talking about restraints and putting the patient in a isolation room. And he says that that's the wrong way. So I hope you got something out of this. The individual psychology of Alfred Adler. That's what I've been up to. Thank you.